With 2022 in our rearview mirror, we were gearing up for our first big build of 2023. Dates were set, ideas were churning, and we were super excited to finally meet Tight Loops Fly.
My name's Chase Barty.
And I'm Amy Barty.
And we are Tight Loops Fly, or we're just Chase and Amy, whatever you want to call us. But most people know us as Tight Loops Fly on our social media, on Instagram and on YouTube. We're primarily filmmakers, general creatives. We're photographers, writers. I'm a fine art illustrator. Most of our work is centered around outdoor adventure and recreation. We probably specialize in fly fishing, films, and media. So most people are probably most familiar with us for our fly fishing work, but we like to think of ourselves as kind of generalist outdoor people. Got anything else you want to add?
Good. I don't know, art kids. Yeah, I met Chase and he was really into this thing called fly fishing, and I was like, I don't get it. And took me out fishing and caught my first stocked rainbow trout out in Rhode Island and was hooked. Like, I know, the pun is just unavoidable, but really fell in love with it. It was a great excuse to spend more time outside.
Chase and Amy approached MLO as they were ready to start a new chapter in their lives. With over 10 years in the industry and 3 shops covering the East Coast, we were ready to help them put their vehicle troubles in the past. Having some avid fly fishers on our team here at MLO, we were even more excited to get their build in motion.
Road tripping out west in the summer is kind of like part of a tradition for me, whether in a vehicle or with my family or whatever. So when Amy and I decided we wanted to go out west in the summer too, we were looking for the right vehicle, and I don't know that we immediately knew it was going to be a van. I was pushing for just like a truck with a bed on it, something simple, but
I became obsessed with getting a Volkswagen van. Couldn't really tell you why. Something about like old boxy Volkswagens just like really spoke to me. And the thing that's really hard about the van and these issues and to like see it clearly is that when you come away from it and the van is working again, or you fixed it, or you figured out the problem, and then you're driving down an incredible road and the windows are down and the wind's in your hair, it's like all of the good memories come flooding back, and that's all you can really remember. Even some of the most disastrous things that we've had to deal with in the van, like the story is always so good. And the feeling that we're left with when we come away from that is like such a triumphant, like victorious kind of feeling of like, oh, we figured this out, like we made it. And like the van didn't let us down, even though like the van clearly like had some disaster.
The reason we're even making a switch is that the van started to take up such a huge space in our lives, where like 60% of everything we're doing just revolves around like keeping this vehicle running. Which like maybe is fine if you're independently wealthy and like your life just revolves around this vehicle, but we're not independently wealthy. We're working professional creatives.
And we were starting to say no to a lot more stuff.
Right,
because we in a lot of ways are held back by the van's capability. Not having 4-wheel drive, like we're lucky to have friends that have 4-wheel drive and have winches and can pull us out of sticky situations where we get stuck. But when we're alone, we're not always with our friends. So when we're alone, we have to be much more cautious and make, very intentional decisions about what we're doing, where we're going, what we say yes to.
I think if you ask most people who are living on the road in their vehicles, they've made that change because they're looking to open more doors in their lives, have more freedoms, more possibility. And while that was true initially, at this point in our careers, the van is actually closing doors, and we're just looking to start opening them again.
What's the best way to start opening doors when you live on the road? A more capable vehicle. But with so many different platforms available, how do you pick the best one for you? In the end, it all comes down to how and where you want to travel. If you're trying to reach the most remote destinations, there's one platform that always comes to mind.
Full-time, the last 3 years we've been living in the van, and although we were Volkswagen people, the road community is pretty large, so we know people who live in all sorts of stuff. We know people who live in their Sprinter vans, we know other people who live in their Volkswagen vans, we know people who live in their trucks with a bed on it, we know people who live in campers, we know people who live in RVs. We've met all sorts of people, and we've gotten a chance to sort of talk to those people firsthand, sample the different lifestyles and modes of transportation that people are using. And it just so happens that two of our closest friends that we've bonded with over the past couple of years are Mac and Owen from Bound for Nowhere. They had a Tundra with a camper on it, and we spent so much time in and around their truck. We sort of knew really clearly what the capability of that rig was.
And Mac and Owen came from a Volkswagen van as well.
Right,
So
we have
they've
similar
gone
arcs.
through this progression of trying to figure out what works for them, and the work that we do is so incredibly similar too. So it made it really easy for us to look at that and see ourselves living in that situation too.
But yeah, long story short, we were like, we'll have what they're having. So we bought a new Tundra.
We're not biased.
They
or
also,
anything.
of course, put us in touch here with Mainline. Because Mainline was so instrumental in their build to begin with. So
super lucky to have.
we're like their little brother and sister following in their footsteps.
They're our mentors. They're guiding us. But yeah, they in a lot of ways they've done all the hard work. So thanks, Mac and Owen.
Second-gen Tundras are a familiar sight here at MLO, but we were really eager to get our hands on a third-gen. With the second-gen Tundras, we had the leaf spring setup dialed in for our flatbed builds. The new Tundra platform, however, is now using coil springs, which would become a new challenge to overcome with the added weight of the Norwell tray and flatbed four-wheel camper. The easiest part of this process was getting the bed removed, but once we took a look underneath, we quickly realized that just about everything was different.
Yeah, this is the first time that Norwell, anyway, is putting a tray on one of these trucks, so they need all the measurements from scratch. None of their existing measurements will work for the older models.
After we finished measurements, the next step was to send this info to Norweld in Australia, along with the fill neck and multiple parking and radar sensors, so they could begin designing the tray that would accommodate these new features.
Glad that it's
I'm
out of
so
my
glad
hands.
it's not me. There's so much math, and that is scary. But yeah, it's really exciting, for sure.
Stay tuned for the next episode where we dive deeper into the build process of turning the stock 2022 Tundra into the ultimate overland rig and base camp for Tight Loops Fly.
I keep expecting the, Here Comes the Bride music to start playing.
Yeah.
Wow.
God, it looks so much better.
Yeah.
So much better.